Corruption, like a stealthy predator, infiltrates every aspect of society, corroding trust and undermining progress. But how do perceptions of corruption vary across Europe? Join us as we delve into the intricacies of corruption in 10 European nations, shedding light on the challenges they face and the strides they've taken to combat this pervasive menace. So without further ado, let's begin. Number 10. Bulgaria. Bulgaria finds itself at a crossroads, grappling with political instability and rampant corruption. With 5 different heads of government in as many years, the nation faces a crisis of governance. Transparency International's data reveals that corruption ranks as the second most pressing concern among citizens, following closely behind inflation. Despite governmental assurances to combat corruption, trust in the judiciary remains low, with only about a third of respondents willing to report incidents of corruption. The removal of Ivan Gashev, the chief public prosecutor, in 2023 marked a significant moment in Bulgaria's anti-corruption efforts. Yet skepticism persists regarding the effectiveness of subsequent reforms. As Bulgaria strives to restore faith in its institutions and foster accountability, the road ahead is fraught with challenges and uncertainties. Number 9. Hungary. Hungary grapples with a concerning rise in corruption perceptions, with 40% of citizens believing that corruption has worsened in the past year. Transparency International's data reveals a troubling trend, with 17% of public service users admitting to paying bribes in the last 12 months. The misuse of EU funds, exemplified by 15 cases of investigation in 2022, underscores the depth of graft within Hungary's governance structures. The enrichment of close associates of Prime Minister Viktor Orbán raises further questions about accountability and transparency in governance. Despite political assurances to combat corruption, Hungary faces significant challenges in restoring public trust and fostering integrity in its institutions. As scrutiny intensifies, the nation must embark on a path of comprehensive reforms to address systemic corruption and uphold democratic values. Number 8. Moldova. Moldova, while making strides in its battle against corruption, grapples with persistent challenges that undermine progress and stability. Transparency International's data reveals that 22% of public service users report paying bribes in the past year, highlighting the pervasive nature of corruption within the nation. Despite improvements in its Corruption Perceptions Index ranking over the past decade, Moldova faces significant obstacles in tackling organized crime and money laundering. The lack of trust in politicians, with only 20% of Moldovans expressing confidence in political leaders, underscores the urgency of systemic reforms. The existence of criminal networks operating within or in collaboration with the state poses a significant threat to governance and public trust. Moldova's journey towards transparency and accountability requires concerted efforts to address systemic corruption and foster integrity in its institutions. Number 7. North Macedonia. North Macedonia confronts a dual crisis of legislative changes undermining judicial independence and widespread corruption within vital institutions. Amendments to the Criminal Code in 2023 have raised concerns about the effectiveness of the judiciary in combating corruption. The scandal at a prominent cancer treatment clinic, where nearly all staff members were implicated in a criminal network involved in drug trafficking, underscores the depth of corruption within the healthcare sector. Transparency International's data reveals the alarming extent of corruption, with approximately 200 suspected cases set to be closed due to changes in sentencing guidelines. As North Macedonia grapples with systemic challenges, including political interference and institutional weaknesses, the nation must embark on a path of comprehensive reforms to restore public trust and foster integrity in governance. Number 6. Kosovo. Kosovo, still striving for widespread international recognition, faces a significant battle against corruption within its borders. In a shocking revelation, over 100 individuals, including former mayors, judges, politicians, and businessmen, were implicated in a $1 million bribery scandal. This corruption not only undermines governmental integrity, but also poses a severe threat to environmental conservation efforts with protected areas exploited for personal gain. The scale of corruption, evidenced by staggering bribes ranging from $10,000 to $250,000, underscores the urgent need for comprehensive reforms. With over 800 unauthorized constructions in Brezovica alone, corruption tarnishes Kosovo's reputation and hampers progress towards EU integration and global recognition. Number 5. Albania. Albania's battle against corruption has seen both triumphs and setbacks. Despite gaining candidate country status from the EU, corruption remains a pervasive challenge, with recent scandals rocking the nation. The establishment of the Special Anti-Corruption Body, SPAC, SPAC, signaled a commitment to combat graft, resulting in the confiscation of assets worth $120 million. However, deep-rooted corruption within the healthcare sector, highlighted by the misappropriation of $120 million for medical equipment, exposes the extent of the challenge. Number 4. Belarus. Belarus, plagued by systemic corruption, grapples with a series of scandals that threaten to undermine stability and trust in government institutions. President Lukashenko's acknowledgement of corruption within the dairy sector unveils the depth of graft, implicating executives, officials, and commercial groups. Widespread allegations of electoral fraud and suppression of dissent further tarnish Belarus's reputation on the global stage. Despite modest improvements evidenced by an 8-point gain on the Corruption Perceptions Index over the last decade, Belarus faces formidable challenges in addressing corruption's pervasive grip. Urgent reforms and international scrutiny are essential to combat corruption and foster accountability in governance. Number 3. Serbia. Serbia's political landscape is marred by accusations of electoral fraud and suppression of opposition voices. President Aleksandar Vučić's administration faces mounting criticism, with allegations of electoral manipulation casting doubt on the integrity of the electoral process. Transparency. International's data reveals a concerning increase in perceived corruption since Vučić assumed power, signaling a regression in governance standards. The arrest and alleged assault of an opposition party leader underscore the erosion of democratic norms and the suppression of dissent. Serbia's path towards EU integration is hindered by persistent corruption and governance challenges, necessitating urgent reforms to restore public trust and uphold democratic principles. Number 2. Ukraine. Ukraine confronts pervasive corruption, with recent scandals implicating senior officials and exposing systemic graft within government institutions. Transparency International's data reveals that 23% of public service users report paying bribes in the past year alone. The resignation and arrest of high-ranking officials, including provincial governors and deputy ministers, underscore the depth of corruption within Ukraine's corridors of power. Despite international efforts to support anti-corruption initiatives, including the establishment of EUACI, challenges persist in effectively combating corruption and fostering transparency. Ukraine's journey towards reform is fraught with obstacles, yet the commitment to root out corruption offers hope for a more accountable and equitable future. Number 1. Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bosnia and Herzegovina grapple with entrenched corruption, posing significant challenges to governance and economic development. Transparency International's findings reveal a concerning rise in corruption perceptions, with 20% of public service users reporting paying bribes in the past year. The European Commission's report highlights systemic weaknesses in criminal justice policies and legislative frameworks, hindering the effective fight against corruption. Collusion between politicians, law enforcement, and organized crime further exacerbates the situation, undermining public trust and integrity in institutions. Bosnia and Herzegovina's path towards EU integration is marred by corruption scandals and governance failures. necessitating urgent reforms and international support to address systemic challenges and foster transparency. Transcontinental countries. Beyond Europe's borders, transcontinental nations grapple with corruption on a monumental scale. Turkey, Russia, and Azerbaijan face systemic challenges, with corruption perceptions mirroring Europe's struggle against graft. Turkey's decline of 16 points on the Corruption Perception Index over the last decade reflects deep-seated governance issues. Russia's stagnant progress, ranking 141st out of 180 nations, underscores the pervasive nature of corruption within its borders. Meanwhile, Azerbaijan's dubious distinction as the most corrupt transcontinental nation highlights the urgent need for comprehensive reforms to combat graft and foster transparency. Despite regional variations, corruption remains a formidable global challenge, demanding concerted efforts to uphold integrity and accountability in governance. As we conclude our exploration of corruption in Europe, one thing becomes abundantly clear: the fight against corruption is far from over. Yet, amidst the challenges lie opportunities for change and progress. We invite you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay informed, stay vigilant, and stay engaged.